It's been a while, Lewis.
No, it hasn't.
What?
No, it hasn't.
Oh.
I'm going under the illusion that we haven't missed a single week.
Oh, so it's actually only been like a week since the last recording?
Yeah, oddly enough though, there was I've been overwhelmed with the amount of anime we had to watch because they released 7 episodes of shit in the space of that week.
I know, what was up with that? They released like an episode a day. Like, that was so weird.
It was fucking weird though, because I don't know, it's strange. I guess I wonder how they did it, because you always hear about anime production always being behind schedule and they always have to rush to meet deadlines. I don't know how they managed to get it all out. 7 episodes of shit out in 1 week. It's fucking mind-boggling.
It was weird how simultaneously they were all just we got so much done ahead of time, we're just gonna release an episode a day. I mean, why not?
Yeah. It's fucking bonkers. It's
fucking weird. Well. I don't know.
Yeah. Kind of made up for the while that wait, no, hang on a sec. That require, if I were going to say that, that would mean that I would have to accept the fact that we missed weeks, and forget what I said.
We definitely didn't have any scheduling issues, and I definitely didn't get sick, so it was definitely anime.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. We are very punctual podcasters. We cast pods on a very regular basis, and we're good.
How did it get called to be a podcast anyways? I guess it's a cast, but pod-sized? Is that it?
I feel like pod is probably a shortened version of something.
Maybe.
Fuck, I need to Google this actually. This is actually...
Today, on discussions we should be having about anime, we talk about the history of the word podcast.
Nah, this is the thing though, because if I don't find this out now, it's gonna be on my mind for the rest of this discussion. So yeah.
Could just do it after. I mean, we have shows to talk about.
As a portmanteau of iPod, a brand of media player, and broadcast. Thus, the files distributed are typically in audio video formats, may sometimes include other formats such as PDF or EPUB. So yeah,
that makes sense, because podcasts were almost exclusively an Apple iTunes thing back in the day. That was the one way to get podcasts out. So I guess maybe even Apple named it podcast because they were on Apple products.
I feel like that probably be it.
Yeah.
Portmanteau. Fucking Frenchy. What the hell is that? Linguistic blend of words. A linguistic blend of words. A portmanteau.
Yeah, it's when you combine words.
Yeah, that's what I just said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, anime. So, I think there's just so many episodes of anime to talk about. It's hard to do each individual one, so I think we'll just talk about the shows in general as far as what's been released. So I don't remember the order we were supposed to do these in. I'm just gonna guess. I'm gonna guess. So I think the first show we'd cover is Bungo Stray Dogs, since it's not a direct season carryover, but we talked about the first half, so it makes sense that it's kind of a carryover, so it's the first thing we talk about.
Yeah.
So Bungo Stray Dogs, as far as what's come out so far. What do you think, Lewis?
It's really hard to kind of nail points on this because a lot of shit happened. Compared to the first season, Bungo Stray Dogs, this season was a lot more action based. I feel the first season was a lot more character stories with character sort of shit going on, whereas this season feels like there's a lot more events happening with those characters. Not saying that character focus has been thrown aside. I'm just saying that there's a lot more shift of focus going on, which is not bad. I'm just saying it's that kind of shift of focus makes me hard enough to nail down on things. The first thing that peeks out on me is the Rampo thing, which we got last episode, I think. Yeah. I just kind of thought that was kind of cool. They're still willing to give him a sort of story and exposition this late on to the show, which is needed, because I feel like he was probably not the least developed character, but Also, it was nice that they kind of brought in like perfectly closed rooms and shit, because like being a Newman Echo fan, that was a nice thing to see.
You mean closed room murder mysteries?
Yeah, sure. That's what I'm calling them though, because I'm not smart.
What did you say? Perfect room?
Perfectly closed room. Stuff.
I mean, I guess it makes sense, but
yeah. Cause they say that. I believe. Yeah, I say it now. So, anyways, but yeah, like there's a lot more. The not, is it the guild? Yeah, it's the guild.
Yeah.
They have been a very good antagonist this season. You know, it's kind of cool when shit like the enemy of the enemy is a friend. So the agency and the Port Mafia coming together kind of had that sort of to fight a common enemy. It was cool to see. I can't nail down shit because a lot of shit happened, so I'm just speaking in very vague terms here. But the constant... Excuse me. Yeah.
It's okay, I feel the same.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the constant... I wouldn't necessarily say feuding, but... And not bickering, but I guess strain between... Akutagawa and Wolf, the tiger dude.
Atsushi?
Yeah, sure. The constant strain between those two has been a constant in the show is very pleasant to see. You know, the fact that like they have their own ideals and there's a clashing of ideals going on and they still have to work together to fight a common enemy. I'm a sucker for those sort of things. So, but yeah, like I can't really discuss events because it's all very vague in my head. What did you think?
I think you did nail one aspect in that it's I think the word you're looking for is it's more confrontational this half.
Yeah,
like
that's it.
There's a direct like what's the word I'm looking for? It's not really. I mean, I guess it is a war, but it's not really a war. It's like I don't know. The point is that they're trying to gain something. At least the guild is, and the others are trying to like essentially stop them. So there's like an active kind of story going on, whereas everything else, it was just kind of like the Port Mafia sometimes kind of showed up because they wanted Atsushi because of the bounty or whatever, and then they sometimes fought and stuff like that, but there wasn't really anything other than that they were trying to gain, so it was like much smaller in scale, whereas now the guild's like, let's blow up the city. So
that's big.
so the scale is definitely bigger. It's also just been fun to see authors that are more easy to recognize, you know, obviously being you know English, so it's easier to know about them without having to look as much up about them and stuff. But yeah, I didn't get to hear. I almost wanted to, it's almost it's a bit of a backtrack, but I kind of wanted to hear what you had to say about the first arc we went over, because you hadn't finished it when we talked about it last time. You were one episode off. So I actually wanted to hear what you thought about the first encapsulated arc, especially since it also shows you how it connected to the present and stuff. What did you think of I think it was 4 episodes long of the first arc of the second half?
4 or 5 in that ballpark, yeah. Fuck me. I forget.
You forget.
Yeah. I know I enjoyed it. I know that much. But I feel like saying I enjoyed it isn't really a necessary conclusion to this discussion. So I'm going to try and use fancy words to elongate my soliloquy here.
That's
so
okay. You don't have to. If you don't remember, I'd rather not waste the time on blatant just wasting of like trying to pad out the length.
Yeah, like it was definitely a cool sort of story. You know, it was a perfect conclusion with him finally meeting a true foe, if you will, a true antithesis to his character, I guess. Maybe not true. Either way, yeah, and it was a really cool. I wouldn't say juxtaposition of ideals, but it's definitely a very cool thing that I watched. Yeah, the main thing which I kind of took away from it though was the closing sort of relations with Dazai and Port Mafia, the sort of cutting off of many relationships he's had, as well as sort of showing off how he. I wouldn't say showing off how many burdens he has to carry with his time spent in Port Mafia, but it definitely gave an extra bit of depth, a necessary bit of depth as well to Dazai. So yeah, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was. I like that they did it because then it allowed them to do those little bit of instances where you can still see the bit of the Port Mafia in him. Maybe it did it in the first half too, and I just don't remember them. But we've been seeing it a lot more in the second half, where like his little inklings of Port Mafia training have come out, and we see like a bit of a darker side to him, even though he's trying to channel it for a more helpful group than the Port Mafia, basically. Like in the most recent episode, where it was revealed that he had disabled the airbag for the dude, or at least it's heavily implied he did that so that he would have a direct bargaining chip on him for healing him. I mean, and then there was also the more direct ones where like he'd like pretty implicitly or heavily implied tortured the one chick. So it is kind of fucked, but at the same time, like it's interesting to see, like, because the way that he was brought into the agency is it makes sense that he'd still be like this, because he doesn't necessarily believe that he should be a better person or anything. Like he doesn't really care which side he's on, so he's really just honoring like his dead friend's wish to like channel it into more helpful means. So he doesn't necessarily see like the stuff he was doing before as bad, really. So now he's like, it makes sense to see why he would channel like these fucked up methods into, you know, a quote unquote more, I was gonna say good, but it's not quite the right word. The whatever, the more heroic, let's just go with that, even though it's still not quite right, the more heroic side, I guess. Although he does recognize that people shouldn't see it, which is why he always has Atsushi sent away before he does stuff like that. But yeah, it just adds a nice bit of depth to him, even though it was already fun to watch him in the first half just be goofy, because it's a pretty nice performance by Mamoru Miyano. So
yeah, as always.
But yeah, it's interesting. We're like right near the climax, so it's really hard to like, even with all these episodes to work off of, it's hard to go off of, because like the last thing we saw is like right before the climax, so it's like more thoughts are more on like wanting to know what happens next rather than like all the stuff that's already happened. I will say, I hope we see
the season has, by the way.
The season, I think there's like 3 more.
Oh, huh.
It's 2 or 3 more. I think it's 3, but I could be wrong.
It's in that ballpark.
But yeah, I hope we see a bit more of I don't remember their names, but the guild members, the one priest dude who wrote the Scarlet Letter, and the other chick who wrote, I think, like Gone with the Wind or something. Like, because we didn't really get to see much of them. The priest dude we kind of did, because he had the fight with Akutagawa, but the one chick just took all the hits that fight and didn't really get to do anything. And she somehow managed to live. So, I mean, it's implied that she may not recover very well, so we may not get to see more of her. But the priest dude broke off ties with Fitzgerald, so we may see him do something. Or that could just be a thing that's for, like, a much later plot line in the manga or something. Who knows?
I don't know.
Yeah, I hope we get to see more of them, at least, since we didn't get to see that much of them. But it'll probably be more the case of just finding out what Fitzgerald can do, because we still haven't really seen what he's able to do other than take hits pretty well. So it'll be interesting to see.
Have a lot of money.
And have a lot of money. His power will probably have something related to money or gold. Like, that just seems to be a given.
His stocks will crash as soon as the ship hits the land, and he's like, oh shit, now I don't have any money. Fuck.
I thought you were going to say his power was, like, to influence the stock market, so, like, he could just bankrupt his opponents.
That's fucked. Killing them is also fucked as well, but, like, taking their money first, that's a truly fucked up thing.
If you say so. I think that's it. Any other thoughts on Bungo Stray Dogs?
Nothing really comes to mind, sadly. No.
Yeah, it's basically just right before the climax. Let's see what happens, which may be a case with some of the other shows too. Not all of them, but similar since we're about that far into shows. The next show we cover, let's see if I can remember which one it is. I think the more popular one is Occultic 9? Or is it? It's either Occultic 9 or Drifters. No, it's Drifters that's more popular than Occultic 9, so it would be Drifters next.
Yeah.
So next up is Drifters, and full honesty, I'm still not caught up on Drifters, but because of the kind of show that Drifters is, I don't think it matters. I don't think there is a plot to Drifters other than two warring factions, so I don't think it really matters that much that I'm behind. So I could be proven wrong, but I don't think I have been based on the bit of mutterings I'm hearing you say. So what do you think of the episodes so far that have come out for Drifters, Lewis?
I don't know what to say other than, yeah, it was a pretty cool fight this episode. Like, I think I said this before, like in the last thing, when Drifters came up, and I said that like I think we will struggle to find things to talk about. Yeah, just due to the nature of it. And lo and behold, I'm fucking right. I don't know. Like, yeah, it's basically just two warring sides, with two Deus Ex Machina people kind of leading them, but not really, fighting each other for land. I don't know what to actually fight for anymore. I know Sagita Tomokusa now, he voices a dude in drag now.
Well, that's something.
Yeah, it's something. There's dwarfs. There's some famous history people in the show.
I mean, let me just guess what happens.
Sure.
There's lots of fighting. The good guys kind of like slowly make progress on getting more land and more people to follow them, but sometimes have a bit of pushback on them. It introduces more historical people at the drop of the hat because of how the plot element of how they're introduced is signed up as they just sort of show up occasionally whenever the author feels like it. That is both in the meta sense of the work itself and a meta sense of within the show, the dude who sits with his fucking newspaper, who I'm kind of calling an author, I guess. And they just fight a lot, and there's no semblance of any actual progress being made other than uncovering more about who the people are that they're fighting. How right am I?
More or less there. Yeah. Yeah. Like, the progress, I guess, this episode was that they recruited some dwarfs which were being held captive by the baddies, I'm assuming. And they fed them very nicely, and they gave them a lot of good stuff. And now Nobunaga even, he showed them his musket and was like, hey, look at this. It's like a crossbow, but it shoots lead. Boo. And they were all like, hey man, we can build these. And then they started building them, and
So they're basically like building up people with skill sets to arm themselves and go to full out war, basically.
I think so. Yeah. Like, I mean, yeah.
With this kind of work, it's hard to really talk about like what it does with plot since there like virtually is none. So the real question then just becomes stuff like about the action. Like, does it remain self-aware and amusing enough that it continues to be amusing? Do the fights go on for the right amount of time? They don't drag their feet Dragon Ball Z style for like 4 episodes and powering up. I mean, that's the extreme end of the spectrum, obviously. any of that, Lewis? You're the only one who's qualified to say anything since I'm still on like episode 4.
Like, yeah, the fights, they generally tend to start with the exception with the section being the Joan of Arc fight, I believe. Anyways, the fights tend to start and finish within the same episode, and then there's sort of a downtime for mindless banter or provisions gathering, I guess. It's like that's it's as far as a action show, it's entertaining at the very least. Like, the comedy, while it's not purely just doing a little nudge to the historians in the audience, it can be funny. The action is very well animated and just the right amount of being over the top. Like, as an action anime, it fills all the boxes. It does its job, but you just can't talk about it other than, hey man, that last episode was awesome. Am I right? Yeah, woo. That was me high-fiving myself.
End of discussion.
Yeah. Like, I guess the only thing really to discuss is the motivations of the dude with the white cloak who seems to be leading the baddies, not on a meta level though, not like the girl in the black hallway, the black part of the hallway even. I guess you can talk about that dude, but other than that, yeah, they seem to just be like displaying him as a just baddie that wants the world to end, yet they're not really discussing why he wants that to happen. So it's yeah. Like, I don't hate the show at all. Like, it's not like a chore to watch it. It's just there's nothing to talk about.
Just such a far cry from like when we were covering ReZero. Couldn't shut up. Just so many things to talk about. And Drifter's just like, there was fighting, people got shot, and then the episode ended.
Elves. There are some people there. There are some more people there as well. Yeah.
I guess this will just ultimately become at the end of it. We'll just have to discuss whether it was worth watching. I guess that's really the only question to cover when it comes to Drifters is, was our time well spent?
I don't know. I suppose, yeah, I will only really will know until I actually finish it. If it ends with an open ending, I feel like I will have wasted my time. If it ends conclusively and definitely, I feel like I will at least feel somewhat satisfied.
Well, isn't it adapting the manga of the dude who wrote Hellsing? And I'm pretty sure it's the currently ongoing current manga.
Why the
meaning
fuck did you
it's
say
not
that?
done. Meaning it's definitely not gonna have a finished ending unless it goes anime original, which, I mean, it could always do.
Yeah. It's being done by it's Madhouse, isn't it? Yeah.
Madhouse is doing this.
Yeah.
Madhouse doesn't necessarily do anime original endings as frequently as they just don't do second seasons. Except for One Punch Man season 2 for second season, but it's such a bunch of people who aren't usually like the staff who worked on One Punch Man are largely freelancers. Like, they aren't like beholden to the studio, so I'm not even sure if it really counts.
I'm sure it kind of counts.
Sure.
If only like Drifters was like made by, I don't know, Bones or some shit. At least then I'll have like some hope.
Then it'd be almost guaranteed to have an anime original ending.
If only. But whatever. I'm sure the ending will be fine. I say, sinking into my chair immediately after sighing.
Anyways, I
It
guess
really
that'll
sounds like
be
I
it
hate the show,
for
but
Drifters. I mean, there's not the.
Yeah.
Did you have anything else to say about Drifters?
No, there is
Yeah.
nothing to say. I really extended that far beyond the needed amount.
Yeah, I guess there is nothing else to say.
Yeah.
So
Shit.
the next show we cover, the next one is actually Occultic 9.
Woo.
So, what do you think of Occultic 9 so far, Lewis? Since it seems to actually be kind of getting to a point finally.
Yeah. I still don't know what I think about it. I'm struggling to. Maybe I missed some huge plot point that just went completely over my head just because of the big pace that it does. But I'm struggling to see what their goal is. You know,
We
all
still don't
dead.
really know, other than I
Yeah.
think trying to achieve immortality.
Yeah, because they're all dead right now. So
They're dead, but not really dead.
yeah, it's fucked. I don't know. It's the concepts is pretty cool. That's got me interested. The characters are diverse enough that it feels like I'm not. Each has their own sort of conflicts and whatnot. Sort of. It's not like when I say that, it kind of sounds like they all have completely different motivations and shit. They're varying, but they're not colliding conflicts, you know. But yeah, they vary enough that the characters and keep me interested to an extent. But I don't know. It's if I were to sit down and watch it, I'd kind of just zone out and just maybe it's due to the nature of the speed, and they seem just want to do a cover of Rap God, but I just don't know what to think about it. It's fine. It has a cool setup, has a nice nice range of characters. But I don't know. It's a funky show, but I'm still sort of on the fence about it this late into the show as well. I suppose I'm suddenly now on the fence now that the show is actually finally doing something.
Nice fucking noise.
Yeah, no, my voice was cracking, so I had to do that. Yeah, what was I saying? Yeah, now that the show is finally doing something, now I'm suddenly on the fence about it. It's just, again, I guess it's kind of like Drifters. It's just a matter of, I don't know where exactly the show intends to go right now, or how it's going to play out for the rest. So I'm just going to see how it ends and just have that be how I interpret the ending is how I'm going to think about the overall show as a whole, you know?
I can see that. It's I kind of agree with that, but at the same time, I'm also very much seeing the show in the moment kind of thing. It was when we last talked about it, I said that I understood why people were turned off by the show because it was more work to watch than it was entertaining because of how fast it is, and they were slipping in dialogue that was important in random bits of dialogue. It's not actually doing that. I mean, they're still talking fast, but slipping the random important bits of dialogue isn't happening as much. So much as everything's kind of the same level of importance, but certain people say more important things than others.
Yeah.
So it's less on that, but at the same time, I also kind of liked that it was fast before because it almost kept me on my toes. It was almost a weird juxtaposition with something that was going for kind of a dark horror kind of theme to be going a mile a minute, because generally horror is something that takes its time, you know, that's something you associate with it. So it was this weird contrast that I kind of liked. But the more it's been doing it, the more I feel it's not really a case of just a weird style, and more a case of we only have 12 episodes to adapt this long as fuck visual novel, so everyone needs to talk really fucking fast. So that's what's been bringing it down a lot lately, because I mentioned it on Twitter. I fucking very infrequent tweeting I've been doing lately, but I had to fucking bring one out to mention that I think it was the most recent episode of Occultic 9 where what's her name, Miu or something, is like in the sewers and she's like slowly making her way through the sewers. Like that was actually creepy because it like took its time. There was a weird fucking like first person view for a bit.
Oh yeah.
She walked into the room with all the like blood cubes. Like, it was actually creepy. And then the fucking kid starts talking a mile a minute again, and you're like, well, there goes all the tension. So, now it's just, like, at first, like, the horror actually kind of complemented the fast style, as weird as that sounds, because it was almost like a horror style of its own. But now it's, like, in direct conflict with the horror. So it just, like, isn't working very well. And that's why it feels like they're talking fast just to get through the content, which sucks because like what's here is actually kind of interesting. Like there's these weird like fucking occultic group that's trying to achieve immortality through like fucking physical ghosts and shit. Like it's weird as fuck, but it's like no more weird than like some of the shit that was pulled in Steins Gate. And so you can really see that author like, you know, their style of like weirdness like in this work. But because it's happening so fucking fast, like it's hard to like appreciate any of it and hard to keep track. Like when the fucking dudes are explaining the science behind what they're doing, they're talking at a mile a minute, and you like you have to pause the episode or you will not be able to follow what the fuck they're saying at all. Unless you just group it as like they're explaining what's happening and I don't care about the details, that's just what they're doing. Yeah. Like unless you do it that way, like you're going to have to pause the episode to explain. Like it's clear a lot of thought went into the explanation, but it's given to you so fucking fast, you either don't care or you just can't keep up with it. So it's like I can't even imagine what it's like to watch. Like I'm, you know, this might seem like a bit of a tangent, but stick with me on this. There's the whole like argument that was given, and I think it kind of it didn't crop up, but it was like an especially good point when the whole Answerman article went up on voice acting stuff and how they say like voice acting like is bad if it's the argument that voice acting in Japanese is bad if you know the language because they don't actually talk that way. Which is dumb because they're emulating Hollywood style. We could go over this for fucking hours, but I'm not gonna waste the time. But their argument is they like emulate a Hollywood style, and people in like actual conversations don't talk like that. They actually talk pretty quick. And it's kind of like, you mean like in Occultic 9, that show that no one fucking likes because they talk fast? So, I mean, I'm stitching like two groups that probably aren't actually like connected, but it's just like kind of an amusing tangent that kind of argument got brought up, like how, oh, the voice acting's bad because it's not like actual Japanese. And then we have like fast talking as fuck Japanese in Occultic 9 and everyone hates it. So I just thought that was an amusing tangent I would mention. And now hopefully no one ever fucking believes the argument that if they talk fast like normal Japanese, it makes it better, because no. So
yeah, that entire Answerman article, in fairness, was just retarded anyway, so like...
Do you mean the one where he says that people don't actually want to hire esteemed voice actors because they secretly think they suck?
Yeah.
If you think about it, that Answerman article was basically on the level of a fucking conspiracy theory.
It really was. I forget, like, there's some gist of it. I remember I, like, wrote an entire thing about it because it fucking got underneath my skin that much, but...
I mean, that's what it basically was. He said that voice actors suck, and that everyone in the industry actually apparently knows that they suck, but they have to hire them because it's cheaper or something than actual actors or something. And then, like, how it's, like, better to do that than to get, like they're more encouraged to do that than to get random people. And then, like, the example he gave of, like, an actual, like, random one-time actor, he was a piece of shit, so he, like, undermined his own fucking point. It was a really weird article.
It was strange. I don't actually, see... I feel like, you know, Answerman put himself in a little position where, like, he just kind of, like, he needed to talk about something, but he just didn't know what to say, so he just kind of like, yep, that's fact. But,
or he just pretended that he knew what he was talking about, and then when everyone got mad, or at least a couple people got mad, none of the people that actually commented on the article, because if you look at the comments articles, they like make you want to fucking puke about how they're like, oh, that makes sense. So, and then everyone just forget it happens because he still has a job. So, hey.
Yeah. I don't know, like, he's had that job for ages as well now, so I think he can just write any old bullshit and he'll, like, still get away with it, you know?
Well, I mean, the point was before, like, he would write about stuff that people didn't know much about, so you just assumed he was telling the truth. You were like, oh, okay, that makes sense. But now he writes about something that, like, a lot of people are passionate about, voice acting, and, like, the more passionate voice acting community is like, this article's full of shit. Now it's just like, what else has he been lying about all this time that he pretends to know about? Like, now you can't take anything at face value anymore.
Sorry, I was going through some of the quotes in it, and I was just like, doing voices seems to be an easy crutch, a bad habit that many experienced voice actors fall into.
Voice acting is a bad habit of voice actors.
People shouldn't do voices in voice acting. People shouldn't, like, oh man, I wonder what else I can, like, attribute that to.
I mean, I'm someone who believes that actual acting is more important than being able to have range. Like, if you have range, it doesn't matter if you can't act. So, I'm in that crutch, but wording it like that is like, that's just poor as fuck wording, bro. Because that's definitely like, not what he's saying.
When it's definitely like, you know, the name is in the title, voice actors, and saying that doing voices is a crutch, it's a little bit, poor argument there, mate. But, I don't know. Anyways, we're supposed to talk about anime.
Yeah,
technically we did.
Talking fast kind of undermines the thing. That's what I was saying, and it sucks because some of the stuff that's in the show is actually pretty cool, and it's a shame that it's going to go down as a bad show because of the execution on some parts. But I'm excited for the next episode because I mentioned the last time we covered it that a lot of people were giving shit to Big Boob Chick because of her fucking big boobs and personality, and I said, you know, there was that little tidbit where she seemed kind of weird. And they showed it a bit. I think it was, I don't know if it was the same episode before, but like halfway through the episode, we saw a little bit of that where she was leaving the cafe. And now at the end of the episode, we see that there's definitely more to her than meets the eye. And you'd think it's a coincidence that out of the main group we've been following, she's like the only one that didn't actually die in the incident, along with the cafe owner. But he's been like MIA for the last like 4 episodes, so we have no fucking clue what that dude's up to.
Yeah, no, I've always been kind of interested now, and they've obviously waiting to pull the trigger on her until like the final few episodes now. So I guess now that we're getting to see them pull the trigger on her, it's gonna be sweet.
Watch her be like a fucking Russian spy or some shit.
That would be kind of weird. Like, I'd imagine she probably like, you know, hypnotizes them all with her boobs, and they're all like, oh man, life is only going to be a disappointment from here. Any sex I have now is going to be horrible. I'm just going to drown myself.
It was almost like a blatant red herring in the sense, like, everyone was whining about, like, the boobs on her character design, when I immediately was like, you do realize the boobs are big intentional so that you'll think she's the kind of character she is, when it's obviously the biggest red herring, most obvious red herring in existence for something else going on with her, but you won't think about that because you're too busy looking at her fucking tits. Like, it was so obvious, and yet, for some reason, I was the only one, at least from what I saw, being like, you do realize there's more of this character than meets the eye, right?
Yeah, it's retrospect is a funny thing.
Hindsight's always 20/20.
Yeah, that's the phrase.
Like the year America's all looking forward to.
Funny.
I stole that joke.
Oh, nice one. Just like,
I know, right?
Still, I didn't know where I was going with that one. Okay. Yeah, I don't have anything else to say on Occultic 9, to be honest. I think I've already just wrapped up all my thoughts on it.
Yeah. Yeah, so that means we only have one show left, and before we get to it, I should mention, because I should have mentioned at the beginning, but I forgot to mention it. Apologies if my recording sounds a bit different, because stuff has been happening here lately, so I'm in like a different area, and so there may be more reverb and echo than usual. Which you may not be able to hear because I feel like part of the sound that comes through my recordings is already partially reverb and echo. Nice. But I've got some stuff like sound dampening foam and stuff I'm gonna like put up on the walls pretty soon, which should help. So nice. If it sounds fucking annoying in this recording, sorry. Hopefully next recording it won't sound as bad. Just wanted to say that. Should have said it at the beginning. Most people probably already stopped fucking listening at this point.
Yeah, I think people have already probably got accustomed to it. So now that you've said it, they're going to start hearing it again now. When
it's actually sound dampened, they're going to be like, why do you sound weird?
Yeah. What's this? You sound really close to my ears. Get away from me.
I'll finally be able to do this ASMR videos I've wanted to do my entire life.
I was just about to say that you can finally do ASMR videos.
Yes, my voice is completely set and ready for ASMR videos, definitely.
Yeah, you can really get a good following on social eating on Twitch, you know? Just get the popular of ramen going on.
Wow. Except that's that's more visual than anything since they're actually streaming themselves eating, you know?
Yeah. But I think people are definitely in there for the ASMR as well, though.
Partially. I think they mainly just want to see cute Asian girls eat. Let's be honest.
That's also another thing, yeah.
What do you mean also another thing? That's the main thing.
Yeah, but there's also some weird-ass people that, like, enjoy hearing people eat, and they are fucked to me. Like, I hate the sound of
people
any
eating.
sort of noise going on in someone's mouth. Like, it's just it doesn't even have to be like a crunch or a slurp. If someone's just eating fucking pasta with their fucking mouth closed and I can hear that going on inside, that fucking makes me want to shoot myself.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now we're talking about food, I'm starting to get hungry, so we should finish this so I can eat.
Nice.
So, last show, we're going to cover your pick, March Comes In Like a Lion. I'm curious what you think of the show, although I imagine it hasn't changed much since we last talked about it, but maybe it has, who knows? What do you think about March Comes In Like a Lion so far, Lewis?
I really like this show. It's really, really right up my alley. Like, I remember... It's kind of funny. What was it last season we were talking about Thunderbolt Fantasy?
You mean I was talking about Thunderbolt Fantasy?
Initially we.
No, I was talking about Thunderbolt Fantasy. You watched like half an episode and then didn't pay attention to the rest.
My point being was that sometime there was a question you asked me during that saying, what is my ideal show? And I'm going to take that.
Did I ask that? I thought I really just asked you, why do you find the show boring? And you kept dodging the question.
No, you did ask. I remember saying the reason why I found the show boring was because it's just the antithesis of my ideal show, or just what I look for in a show. And then you were like, oh man, then what's your ideal of a good show? What's your ideal
if you said that, I imagine I did ask that.
Yeah,
Anyways, answer the question.
Okay, cool. Shit. Oh, yeah.
So what's your ideal show?
And I think March Comes In Like a Lion shares a lot of things of like what my ideal show is. It's got a lot of things going for it, which I just really, really love seeing. This episode, I'm just gonna kind of go a brief overview of some shit. It's got a really nice touch of, this might sound weird, but heavy-handed subtlety to it. It's like...
That is a direct contradiction, yes.
It lets you... shit, where was I going with this? It lets you know very early on that there's something going on, and they're very obvious about that, yet they're kind of... It lets you sort of chalk your own sort of not your own ideals, but your sort of own ideas, rather, and kind of formulate into one picture, while kind of subtly doing hints and suggestions throughout. Also, the show itself goes for a comfy aura to juxtapose a very real, harsh, sharp atmosphere. It's real, like that sort of juxtaposition of just, the comfy family home of the three sisters, versus the solitude and just loneliness of Kirimura, the main dude. Yeah, I really like that sort of the juxtaposition there, and also directing wise, it's strange. Strange being Shinbo's all necessary traits of his directing style are there, yet it feels like he's also giving that extra touch, that extra necessary bit of depth to it, which allows the show rather to go above and beyond. I'm saying words at this point. I'm not sure where I'm going with this as well. Point is, I really like this show. There isn't really a plot per se. It's really just characters living day by day, which I like. I'm definitely A-okay with that. I will take a good character story over a breathtaking plot story, if that makes sense, any day of the week. And I just feel like the recent last episode, it was kind of strange. But when I was watching it, the first half, was watching, I was thinking, this is quite heavy-handed. They're really just kind of emphasizing the fact that, Kiriyama, it's Kira something. Kira Moore. Some main dude is like really happy. He's he should realize that, there are people around him who like him and blah blah blah. He should, be happy and whatnot. And then it just kind of which is strange. Was very strange for the show to do that, because it was always very kind of subtle with the sort of relationships he has around him that should allow him grow as a person. But then in this first half, they were very handed on it. But the thing is, in the second half, it was just a slap in the face as to why he had that sort of suffering and that sort of anguish throughout his life, and it kind of became apparent as to why he has how would I word this? It's apparent that his I don't want to say suffering, because that's too much of a heavy of a word, but I want to say his sadness, let's just say that, runs a lot deeper than you would imagine, I guess. It's a hard thing to articulate for me, or to talk about, because I don't know how to really express it, because it's just hard to. But yeah, it's a really, to me, I'm enjoying it. I really like the slow pace of it, and it's still a visually very, very pleasing show. It's a good show. I like it.
Yeah, it's like there are aspects that you're mentioning that I agree on, but at the same time, like, I'm almost the opposite on. Like, I like a lot of the ideas in March Comes in Like a Lion, a lot of the character ideas, especially, like, just the core idea of, like, this dude who's, like, making a life already in high school, but, like, he is deep, like, depression over, like, what he's doing and stuff that's happened in his life and stuff like that. Like you mentioned, largely a character story. But at the same time, I feel like the show's almost, like, too vague for its own good. Like, there are a lot of times where, like, just, like, he's sad about stuff, or, like, he like alludes to, like, something sad having happened or whatever, and, like, you don't have enough information to, like, really make a good enough of a connection with what, like, is going on necessarily. So it leaves you kind of feeling left out, I guess, in a way. Like, a lot of the time I'm watching the show and it's just kind of like events happening on my screen in front of me, and I don't really get that connection bit. And it's hard to really figure out why. It's hard to figure out why something isn't doing something that it's supposed to be doing. But it's, I don't know. Like I said, I think it's just largely that it's too vague. Like, I haven't had too much trouble issue with the directing so far. I mean, like I said, the last time I'm usually on off with Shinbo's directing. He seems to be doing fine, at least in my opinion, for this show. Nothing really, like, jarring for me, at least. It's just the struggles and stuff are almost, like, too vague. And then, like, whenever it's talked about too, like, a lot of the time it's like a lot of, like, airy kind of, like, mental thoughts that, like, don't really have a core, like, well, I guess they do have a core concept around them. It's just like it's hard to really it's hard to explain this as it is hard to make that connection in the show. It's like, I don't know. It's really hard to say why I'm not. I mean, I don't think there's any one core reason necessarily. It's just like this. I feel like maybe I'm just contradicting myself because I was like ragging on Kleinad for something like this, but I almost feel like it's not heavy-handed enough. It's just like there's letting the audience make their own connections, but then there's like not giving enough hints and details to really have even a chance. Like there's giving someone a puzzle with all the pieces, whether it can be a 5-piece puzzle, a 10-piece puzzle, a 2,000-piece puzzle, and then there's giving someone a puzzle with only half the pieces, you know? Like, it's kind of like that. Like, I don't feel like I have enough been giving enough information to, like, make a core, like, connection and, like, full thread with what's going on in Kiriyama's head. Like, I can't make the connection from the first episode to this episode of what's been going on in his head and what he's been struggling with, other than, like, really vague concepts. Which can work, but at the same time, like, I feel like I don't have as big a connection as I should. So, I guess that's where I'm feeling. I like, there isn't enough of the piece there that I feel like I could go in, like, pretty different directions with what the show's trying to, like, say about him as a character or what he's struggling with, and, like, either could work with the information I've been given. Like, for example, in the last episode, I think I may have actually missed an episode because when I was looking at the episodes, when I was catching up on shows, I was surprisingly caught up on March Comes In Like a Lion, and I'm usually about the same on everything. So sorry if this isn't the most recent episode, but the episode where his she's not his stepsister, but his, what would she be? Because he was like essentially adopted into another family.
It would be
adoptive sister.
It would be stepsister, right? Like,
no, a stepsister is if you marry into the family or someone in your family marries in, wouldn't it? He was just adopted into another family, like legally. Like it's not really a stepsister. Would it be his adoptive sister? Because he's his adoptive brother. So yeah. I don't know. I don't know if there's a term for it. Like, he's an adoptive brother, but I don't think she necessarily counts as an adoptive sister. I don't know. Anyways, when she shows up, like, and they were portraying stuff with her, I could not tell if it was just portraying her sexually in general, or if it was actively going for sexual tension, because I'm sorry, but that's what I was getting out of those scenes. Like, it felt like there was some active sexual tension going on between the two of them. And whether it was actually going for that, I don't know, but that's what it seemed to with a lot of the directing decisions. Like, Kiriyama was like doing stuff for her. He was letting her stay at his place, but he like was kind of like refusing to make eye contact with her. And he was almost like this completely different person around her. And she was like almost like doting on him in this like weird way. And like the shot where she was like really close and was like caressing his cheek almost. I mean, she was checking his face for scars, but at the same time, like there was it's easy to classify what was happening in that scene as sexual, and I couldn't tell if it was in a general sense or, like I said, like there was supposed to be sexual tension between the two of them, and it was really weird that I could not tell which one it was. So it's kind of like that in general with the show. Like, I can't tell which direction necessarily it's going a lot of the time, and I'm not sure. I mean, maybe it is my own ineptitude, but I feel like part of it is just like the show's being too vague to the point where like multiple interpretations work, and it's not the kind of show where like it necessarily wants that to be the case. Like, it's hard to make a connection with the character when like you aren't sure what they're feeling, other than the vague sense of it. But that's just me.
I feel like the sexual tension that was going on, I think that was a sort of callback almost to, I don't know, it was like episode 3 or 4, 2, that ballpark, where Kyoko got mentioned somehow. I think it was like a flashback or some shit. No, she was mentioned, and then a flashback happened, and it was kind of heavily, it was just a flashback to her, well, Kiriyama was in bed, and it was just a flashback to her just sitting over him, and then going down to Chris's face, and it kind of implied that he probably did get insulted somehow. So I feel like that was a callback to that. But other than that, I feel like that was just a sort of general rather, sort of vibe they're going off in that entire thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, part of the reason it also felt like sexual tension is just how different it was from the flashback where we saw she was like pissed at him and beating the shit out of him and stuff. Like there was that, and then that contrast with like how she was acting in that episode. It just felt like there was such a dramatic shift that it was like almost like, you know, the polar opposite thing. So sexual tension, but I don't know. I mean, part of it also seemed like, I mean, it gave you a reason why Kiriyama didn't like her boyfriend, obviously, but it also felt like you could be interpreted as like, you know, a more obvious sense of like he wanted to be the one with her. But it was like I said, the directing was weird. Like I couldn't really nail what it was trying to do in that scene. So that was just the impressions I was getting from like that kind of thing, and the show in general, like I mentioned. So it was weird. I don't know. Maybe I was just in a weird headspace when I watched the episode. I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah.
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 It'll be interesting to see where the show goes, at least. Like, I'm interested where this one goes, because that ended at part 1 of, I don't remember what the thing was called. I do like that they're doing, like, weird little story things that are, like, their own chapters within the episodes. Yeah. So it was part 1 of whatever this one was, so it'll be interesting to see where it goes. I am interested in that, at least.
It's called Distant Thunder.
Distant Thunder? Yeah. I knew it was something about thunder because of the obvious lightning and thunder that was happening, but I couldn't remember the word for word what it was. But yeah, I think that'll do it for this week for covering the stuff, because, I mean, we covered everything, so.
Yeah. Woo.
Woo indeed.
It just seemed like an accomplishment, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much to cover. I mean, it's easy when we talk about the shows in general. Almost feels like it takes longer to cover show specific episodes. Yeah. Because it's like we like go real deep into it when it's like specific episodes. Whereas with general shows, we just kind of talk about general concepts.
That's easier because we can skip over shit, and then we don't have to feel bad about it.
True. Yeah. So, closing thoughts, I guess, Lewis?
Shit. I never have anything prepared for these. I probably should start doing that. No. No
closing thoughts. No. None. You don't get any.
No.
All right.
I'll write one down for next week, though. Maybe.
Maybe. All right. So that'll do it for this week. And we'll see you guys. I was gonna say next week, but I think I'll just say the next recording, just to cover my own ass.
It's a safer thing, yeah.
We'll see you guys next recording. So see you then.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.